Hello, my name is Alok and welcome back to another episode of Tech with Alok. As always, we will start with the intro first. We will create an API gateway and a Lambda and we'll try to integrate both of them. To test them, we'll send a request from API gateway to Lambda, and Lambda will process the request and the response will come back to the API gateway. In the second part of the episode, we will also learn the authorization piece. For API gateway, we will learn Lambda Authorizer and a Cognito, how we can use these two to authorize API gateway. So let's start. Let's create a Lambda function first, and then we'll create an API gateway later, and then integrate. So keep everything default for now. We'll take the latest Python version. We don't need to change any execution rule or any advanced setting. We'll just keep as it is and create the function. It will take a few seconds. Okay, we have this Lambda function. Lambda function doesn't have much. It will return a 200 status code and a message, hello from Lambda. Nothing fancy. Let's create API gateway quickly. We are going to create REST API, a simple API. So just name it API. Regarding API endpoint types, these are network related settings. We are not going to discuss, but we will keep it default, which is regional. Okay, now we have API now, but what we're going to do is we are going to create a resource so we can access a resource, and then we're going to create a method within a resource. So what, how you're going to access that resource? Are you going to do a GET request or a POST request? So we'll create a quick resource. We'll call it my resource. Let's call it demo. Okay, and then we are going to create a get method, get, and we're going to integrate with Lambda function. So we'll keep Lambda. In the Lambda function, we'll choose, so we just have one Lambda function, so we'll just keep it as it is. Select the Lambda function and then create method. So what it's going to do is going to create API with a resource called demo and a get method. It has given us this ARN as well. So what we're going to do is we're quickly going to deploy this. Yes, the next part. When we deploy, we need to select a stage. So we don't have a stage at the moment, so we'll create a new stage. So we stage is sort of environment, you can say. We'll just create a stage called dev and we'll deploy. Okay, good. So we have a resource, and then we have an ARN invoke URL for this resource for the API. So what's next? So we are going to test this if the Lambda is connected with this or not, and then if we get a proper response. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this, and we're going to open our browser, and here you go. There we go. We get a response, hello from Lambda, which says, which proves that we have a Lambda function connected. Okay, let's move to the next part. In this section, we are going to talk about API gateway authorization piece. There are two ways API gateway can authorize a Lambda and a Cognito. So specifically, we will discuss Lambda in here for now, and then in the next part, we'll discuss Cognito. We'll see both ways how to authorize. So let's start. So just to give you a brief how this will work, so for now we will create a lambda function, another lambda function, which is a Lambda Authorizer, and what it will do is it will expect authorization token in a GET request in a headers, and then based on the token it will verify if the token is valid or not, and then based on that it will return an IAM policy. So an authorizer API gateway authorization expect an IAM policy with the allow or deny permissions. So and for now we will just create a very simple authorization lambda, but you can extend it. I'll give you a link of the AWS documentation which we can use to create that policy. There's actually very good documentation here, and it tells you what sort of policy it can return and it should return. So it should return a policy in this format, which will have allow or a deny on the API endpoint. So yeah, let's start. Let's create a lambda function. So let's create a new lambda function. And we call it Lambda Authorizer, and we'll use latest Python, and we don't have to change any execution policies or any advanced policies, which is great. And what we are going to do in this lambda function is just create a simple simple authorization validation, and based on that return the policy. So we don't need a JSON because we are not returning any JSON format. We don't need to return the body. What we'll need is this event object, and then we will get our authorization token from this event object and compare with the validation token. So what we're going to do is, for now, we'll just start with printing event, and then it will give you whatever is coming in this event. And then we'll see if let's call it token, and let's say we can give a dummy token for now. X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. Let's say if that's the case, then we take a variable, suppose equals, we say allow. What basically we are trying to do is we are trying to build this allow or deny policy effect in here, an authorization based on this variable. And once we have once the validation token, authorization token is validated, it gives allow, else we'll say else deny. Okay, and we also declare the variable as default is deny, sorry, caps deny, just to be 100% sure that it always takes deny as a policy permission. So yeah, we have this, and now what we need is this return object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just copy this in a notepad or text, and then I'll remove this piece and this comments, and we will return just this piece without the context. We don't need this. So context object is optional in claims, if you see. either you use 1.0 or a 2.0. You can both in the both versions you can return IAM policy. In the 2.0 is additionally support a simple response with a true or false authorize, but for now we'll just use an IAM policy. It's okay. Yeah, let's quickly copy this. Okay, so now we have created this. So select response. So we will build this auth response. So this looks something like this: principal, policy document, statement, and everything else, allow or deny, and yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here. Instead of this, I need a variable which will give us a value based on our validation. And okay, and what else we're looking. So to explain the resource, so whatever the region we are using, so I'm using US East, so I say US East 1, and then the account ID, I'll take my account ID. API ID. So API ID comes from your API gateway resource. So if you see, this has created let's go to stages. So this whole URL which has been built in book URL, this is your API ID, the first part. So I'll get this first part here. Stage. So the stage we are using is dev. Just to devalidate, the stage is dev, and the resource name is demo, and the method we're using is get. So let's see. So verb we're using is get gt, and the resource we're using is demo, and we're not using any child resource. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So okay, so we have this policy now, but what we need is, because either we can turn it into a dictionary, but what we do is we just create a single line response. So copy this, paste it, copy here, and paste it here. So it is a single line object now, which will be easy to return. The auth response is there, and then we say, okay, that's fine, that's it, and return auth response. That's it. Deploy. Okay, so we have this authorizer now. What it's doing is getting authorization token in a header, comparing it. So this is a token which you can we have hard coded it, but you can take it from the secrets, AWS secrets, and just instead of hard coding it here, or any secret management system. So okay, we have this function. Let's integrate it with our API gateway. So let's go to Authorizer, create an Authorizer, say Lambda Authorizer, Lambda use function, and I should see a new demo Authorizer. I don't need a role for the, I'll just keep it as a token. I don't need a request, and what we are creating here is authorization token. So just keep the same name here, and we don't need to give value. We will give it later when we pass it as a header. And for the caching, for the demo purpose, I will just disable caching. Once it is stable and it's working, then you can enable caching, so it doesn't have to check it again and again. But for now, we will have to do a negative and a positive testing, so we'll just disable caching for now. So I'll just create this authorizer, and you can actually test this authorizer here. So we have token, if we say ABC, suppose, and it should give me a response, say deny. See, and if I say X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, and then I should get a responses allowed. So this is a policy which is returning based on my token. So now we have authorizer in place. So now let's attach it to our API gateway resource, because an authorizer can centrally be used for multiple API gateway APIs, or you can create multiple authorizers based on different tokens or a different method. So, but we have just one, so we will just attach it here. So there is in the method request, there is a authorization set to none at the moment. We'll change it to Lambda Authorizer, and then just save. And now what we should have is we should have this link. So because we have made some changes in our API, we need to deploy this. Okay, so this is deployed. It might take a few seconds. Meanwhile, I'll load the Postman. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new HTTP request, and what we have. So invoke URL is this. We just copied this. And so let's try this without any authorization token. Let's see. So I say unauthorized because I don't have any token in the place, and suppose let's add one token. Token, and let's say ABC. Let's send this request, and then message is null. Okay, 500 error because it didn't take the right authorization token. Let's check the name. Okay, and let's say send the request, and now it says, because I think I haven't spelled correctly. So so user is not authorized to access resource within the explicit deny, because we got a deny policy. So what I'm going to do here is, now let's say XYZ 1, 2, 3, and hopefully I should get okay, we got a valid response, 200 from the Lambda. So this is as simple as this one. This is very straightforward for authorization. In the documentation you can also build this. So as you can see, we have sort of hard coded this policy. You can also build this whole policy as well. So if you see, based on this, you can actually build this policy string allow or denied. But I guess it should give you a fair amount of idea, how this whole works. Okay, cool. So let's move to the next section. Okay, so in this section we are going to build a custom authorizer for using a Cognito user pool. In the previous one we saw how the Lambda and Authorizer works, and now we'll see how the Cognito Authorizer works. So let's quickly look into the Cognito user pool. So what we'll do is we'll create a Cognito user pool. As part of this, we'll create an app client, and then with that will give us an option to generate authorization token, and then we'll use that authorization token to authorize the API gateway. So let's quickly create a user pool. So we'll create everything default, most of the settings default. I'll tell you what settings we need to change to get the token. So I'll just keep the default character as 8, but I don't need a special character or anything, so I'll just remove this. MFA, I don't need MFA, so I'll remove MFA. I'll just keep it known to MFA. Rest everything I'll leave default. Self sign-in, self-service, leave it as default. Allow Cognito automatically send email verify, that's fine. We'll leave email as for the verification. And then additional attribute, you can define additional attribute for the users, what attributes you need during registration. So you need address, birth, family name. I'll leave everything default, so I don't need to. You can also define your custom attributes if you need any additional registration attributes for your user. For sending emails, we can use Amazon SES, but I'll use Cognito. The email come from noreplyverification.com, and then it will need my email for sending the tokens or any code. So okay, use Cognito hosted UI. Okay, we'll use that. We'll just need it for registration, and we name our Cognito Authorizer. We name our user pool. Use Cognito domain. We can also use our custom domain if you have, but for now we'll use just the Cognito domains. Okay, so that's available. For app client, I'll use default public client, and my name is okay. Okay, so callback URL. So callback URL is the URL which will user pool will redirect you to after a successful authorization is done. Authentication is done. So we'll just say .com. I mean, if you have your own URL, you can put here, but for now I don't have it, so I'll just use google.com, and it will send it will redirect us to the callback URL. Authentication flow. So we need a token. So what we're going to do is we'll allow admin user password auth, which will give us allow user password auth. We can do this as well, but for now we'll just keep admin password auth. We don't need a remote securely password, so we'll just remove this one and keep that one. This is sort of required for generating a token. Leave everything as default. ID phone. Okay, next. And pretty much everything looks fine. I'll just leave everything as default. Okay, so we have now Cognito Authorizer. Let's look into Cognito Authorizer. Just using app integration and app client. We have this hosted UI. We're going to register using this hosted UI. We're going to do a quick sign up. Okay, so I should receive a verification email. I'll quickly check my email. And then because we have given callback URL as google.com, so after confirmation, after successful login, it should take me to google.com with a code. But I don't need this code because it doesn't mean anything for me. What I need is an ID token, which we will generate shortly. So we have app client, we have a pool. So what we need next? So we need an authorizer here. So let's create another authorizer. So just one authorizer is called let's say Cognito Authorizer, and we say So this is again the token which we will supply the key for that, and then let's create this. So now we have this authorizer. So now we can test this authorizer by just giving some test values, and it gives me 401. But now we need a token. So what we are going to do is we're going to generate quickly the token. So what I'm going to bring here is in the screen is my so I've written this command. I will also add it to the description of the video. So what I need is AWS Cognito IDP, and we need an admin authenticate auth, and then user pool. So where we can get these values. So we go to our client, user pools, and this is a user pool ID we need, which is Q75V2. So let's say 275V2. Okay, and the client ID is your application ID. So application, your app client, and the ID of this one. I need R0, and then the auth flow, we say no SRP auth, and because we have enabled the auth, this admin user password auth, so it should give us ID token. Okay, so now it has given us three tokens: access tokens, refresh tokens, and ID token. So we are interested in ID token. Okay, let's copy this, and then what we're going to do is in API gateway, go back to Authorizers, Cognito Authorizer, and then test this with this token. Okay, so we have got this 200 response with our claims. Claims means it gave us the values what the user should look like. Okay, so this looks promising, and what we're going to do next is to associate this authorizer with our API. So let's go back to API and go to resources. Method request. In method request, last time we were using authorization, so we'll change it and we'll use a Cognito here, and we're not going to change anything else. We're not going to do anything else, and then do save. Now the new Cognito Authorizer in place. So how are we going to test it? We're going to test it again with the Postman. So it's a similar sort of request. Let's remove it blank, and let's say this is the same token. Let's say okay, any random value, and let's say sound, and it's a user is not authorized, forwarding. So what we need next is let's remove this actually. Let's see what response it gives without this key value. Let's see. Okay, so it says unauthorized, and if we give a token key in the header, and with the wrong token, then it gives us an unauthorized access. So what do we need for the right access? So we need that token. So where do we get the token? So we get the token from here. So let's copy it again and get this token here, and then hopefully we should get this. Oh, it says explicit deny. Okay. Okay, let's look into what's happening. Sometimes it's also I think I know what it is. So we attached it with our API, but it is still, we haven't deployed it. So because we haven't deployed it, it is still pointing to the Lambda authorizer. So let's quickly deploy. I think in the live demos, it's sometimes really good to get the issues, because then you can debug those issues, and then it helps everybody. So now we have this. So it sometimes takes few minutes, but let's quickly keep this. Let's move this. Send it unauthorized. Okay. Let's add this token. Hey, here we go. So now we got the right response. Hello from Lambda, and this is coming from our Cognito Authorizer, which is attached to our resource. So yeah, I think this brings us to the end of the demo, but hopefully you get a fair amount of idea of how we integrate API gateway with the Lambda, and how do we do authorize using a Lambda function or a Cognito user group. I'll add all these links and documentation and my Git repository with this code in the description of the video. Hopefully you like it. If you like, click subscribe. It really helps my channel. Click like, click comment. Just comment it. Just let me know how we're doing it. Okay, thank you.